What's up, YouTube? Looking for another short-term rental today, seeing if we can buy a piece of one that's going to make us some money. As usual, it's Joe Cacciapaglia sitting on the couch trying to make some money investing in fractional real estate online. After buying that piece of that short-term rental in Houston on Mogul the other day, if you haven't seen mogul.club, you haven't experienced that, I'll put a link to that video in the description of this one below. I think that's an interesting platform, although it's really new and untested. But I grabbed a piece of what I thought was a really great looking short-term rental, and hopefully it works out as well as I'm hoping. But it made me think that, I haven't given, even though I've spent a lot of time on Lofty, I haven't given them enough attention to the short-term rentals they have on their site. And one of the things with their relatively new user interface that they have, we can sort by short-term rentals. And so I decided I was going to take a look. Um, I have bought a couple. I have a piece of, let's see, I've got a little bit of 90 Madison in Albany, New York. I have a little piece of another one too here, this 11604 DK Ranch in Austin. Both of those have been um, relatively good to me so far. They've been paying decent yields, and I actually have a open order that it hasn't settled yet, but I bought some more of this DK Ranch property the other day. For there was a pretty big dip, and I got to buy that. Um, that's one of the things I think I've talked a few times that I like about Lofty is once I find a property that I like at a certain price, if the token prices go down, which is happens quite a bit, it's just an opportunity to pick up more, as long as I don't think that there's some real, something that's actually went wrong with the property. So I was digging through these, looking for another short-term rental to get, and I thought this one was pretty interesting. They let you sort by a lot of different things. One of the things I sorted by cap rate and thought, hey, look at this one. It is the highest possible cap rate. It wasn't a property that caught my eye before. I actually have two, but now I'm going to close one. This is just a condo in Lawrence, Kansas. Um, you know what I like to do? Starting off right. Checked out Lawrence as a market. It's a college town. What do they say? Some maybe University of Kansas or something. Not really. Yeah, University of Kansas and Haskell Indian Nations University. So a couple of universities, not normally my thing. I actually got started. My very first units were in College Station, Texas, but I sold both of those. And it was actually just a duplex, so it was two rental units. But I sold those, and I don't know, 2009 or something. It's quite a while back that I sold out of those, and I thought, I'm probably never going to invest in college towns again. It's not that I think that you can't do well in them. I just think in the very long run, I don't know. I don't know how the college model is going to continue, right? I think we've seen a lot of education can happen online. And so, I don't know that that's a good thing for colleges in the long run. Although so far they've seemed pretty resilient. Looks like people just like to go there for the college experience. Anyway, looking at the population data, which is where I always like to go first, Lawrence has been growing very fast. Although you'll see, oh, they only have a 2021 estimate. They don't have a more recent one. So, pretty good there. It was the little bit that I looked at the market, it made me think, okay, I want to dig deeper on this one. Um, Especially because they're doing something really interesting, right? It's a short-term rental, but what he's actually doing is renting. It's just a three-bedroom, two-bathroom condo, and you can see, like, when I was looking at the pictures, like, this is just not what I normally think of. Most of the short-term rentals that we have here in San Antonio, which is where I live and invest and work as an agent that only helps investors. So sometimes when I see sometimes it's, I'm working with a lot of clients here. Sometimes it's just my properties, and I try to make it clear which is which, but sometimes it's a little convoluted as well. But anyway, uh, this is not at all what I would think of as a short-term rental. Um, the look of it or anything. But what he's actually doing is he's renting by the room, and he's just in one of the notes is that this damage has actually been repaired. But he's renting by the room, and so he's got two listings up for he's got so one room has a month-to-month tenant that's been there long term, pays $850 a month, and that's all utilities included. That number seems pretty high until you realize, like, well, that's just the total cost for that person to live there. And then he has two Airbnb listings up just for individual rooms. And I thought, oh, this is going to be horrible, right? Like, how can you do that and just not get a ton of negative reviews? But I looked at both, and let's see. So he had a couple of 4-star reviews, but they actually didn't say anything wrong with it. I mean, they were, great place for a short stay. It's only, just 4 stars. So nothing bad there, although it's not a ton of reviews. This hasn't been operating for too long, but um, I'll show you the host has more than that though. So that's one of the properties or one of the bedrooms. The other bedroom has a similar listing. They have 9 reviews and all 5 stars. So, he's managing that very well. If you actually look, he's someone who has a whole bunch of them, um, a whole bunch of reviews and not great ratings. I am curious, when we look at that, wait, can I not look at his actual ratings outside of looking at the properties? Oh, page reviews. There we go. Oh, yeah, show more reviews from hosts. Okay, well, we don't really care about that. Show more reviews. Is there no way for me to? Okay, that's super interesting. I was thinking, I guess I've only looked at a lot of them when it's on another property, or I'm just having a issue right now and not clicking on the right thing. I don't know. But anyway, at the moment, they look to be his only units that he has listed, and so where the rest of these are, I'm not sure. When I looked at his info on the Discord for Lofty, it sounded like he had other units, but maybe that's not accurate. He's running them with a different account. But anyway, so far doing perfectly fine with those. I tried to look up AirDNA, and I don't know. I don't know if you can actually look up by the room rentals on AirDNA, even though it's clearly being done on Airbnb. I tried messing around with this a little bit. Obviously, if you use the whole thing, as a 3-2 with 6 guests, maybe you can go with 8. No, I'd leave it at 6 for the size of the room. Okay, this is not impressive relative to what he's earning. But when I dropped it down to 1 bedrooms, it didn't really give me the kind of info I was hoping for. So I looked at this other site. I don't know if you're familiar with Furnished Finders, but it's another one that's good for finding by the room rentals. There weren't very many at all in Lawrence. There's 2 that show up as by the room. Although this one, it says it's a room in a house, but when you read the description, it seems like they're really giving you a little bit more privacy and use of the amenities. So I'm not sure if this price makes any sense. This one is definitely just a room in a house where you're sharing the bathroom, sharing the kitchen, and everything like that. And it's $1,000 a month. So it did seem like this might be a little bit nicer of a property. It's a house. It's not a condo. But it at least was a good sign, right? And it maybe is one more place for him to market that. But I'm going to go back into it is currently yielding 13%. That's this month, right? On Lofty, whatever you're seeing here is you're getting paid out, I think, from from the rent collected the prior month, really, or the beginning of the month. I don't know exactly how they do it with the short-term rentals. To me, it doesn't really, I'm not that concerned because, care about what the long-term yield, not necessarily any individual month. But the prices do really fluctuate by how that month goes. Um, but they do have, let's see, they provided. Sorry about that if I froze for a second. Just having a little problem with my connection, I think. So my screen recorder froze. But I was just jumping into the year-to-date financials that they provided. You can see, they had higher rental income, I think because they had more of the rooms rented out on long-term basis, but now there's just this one room on a long-term basis at 850. And then they switched over the other two rooms to the Airbnb rent by the room model. The co-owner did mention he's running it as, if anybody wants to sign up as a longer term tenant, that they can once they've been in there. But as you can see, we're actually doing a little bit better by having, or actually considerably better, right, by having it on Airbnb versus um, have the longer term stays. But you can see also too, the downside of that is you have some pretty wild fluctuations. Although it looks like there's been some ups and downs, but it's trending in the right direction. It'll be interesting to see once there's a full year, um, what happened in this early part of the year. Are you going to have, is it going to look like the rest of this, or is it going to have a lot of seasonality? Same thing with, coming up through the holidays. Some markets do really well for long term or for Airbnb in those times. Some of them don't. And so it'll be interesting to see. But one of the things, when you do, and this is just showing, the percentage change in the NOI. And so you have, some pretty big swings. And one of the things that does is create some swings in the token prices. And to me, as somebody who's trying to buy these mostly longer term, if I'm looking for a property and I'm very comfortable with what it's worth and the yield that I'm getting, I'm just going to identify them and then maybe buy a little at first and then buy more whenever there's dips, depending on how good it is. And it might be like this is one that as I'm looking at it, I think um, it might be a little bit pricey at $50 a token. And I'll show you why I think that, at least for my taste, even though it is a good yield. Um, it's right now you have to be a market order because there are nobody's has any for sale using limit orders, which means on Lofty when you're doing the market orders, you are paying a little bit more of fees. So I'd really probably be in this one at like almost $52 or maybe even more than $52. Well, we can look at that in a second. But at this price point, you're talking about roughly $150,000. Let's look if we do buy, say if we bought 10 tokens, and we used a market order. Yeah, we'll just leave that on there. Excuse me, I don't have any crypto in the wallet at the moment, but let's preview and see what it actually ends up being per token with that market order. I think it's going to be pretty high. Oh, okay. Well, it didn't add much at all to that. Okay. I think I'm starting to understand how the liquidity pools work, but I clearly don't because, well, I guess I'm not buying a bunch of tokens. It's just 10, and maybe that 50 it is really close to the Oracle price, I guess, if I understand what the Oracle price is. So maybe that makes sense. And so, okay, I'm just adding, um, well, why do we get to five? How do we get to 560 there? That doesn't make any sense. Where's that? Okay, let's look at this for a minute. Original price, final token price. Let's do some math. Why that doesn't look like that's correct? Is that am I just missing something? So $50.23 times 10 tokens plus 1507. Oops, 1507 why is my total here 560? Um, oh, those fees aren't showing up, right? It's not showing my processing fee, my operating reserve contribution, and my market lending fee. Okay, so they're just having a little problem here, where this fee isn't displaying properly, but it's going into the total correctly. Um, so really, you can see like I'm all in. If I did it this way, I'm all in at like $56 per token. If I'm just doing very basic math, but then if I backed out the let's see, this processing fee, which is because I just have it set up on the credit card at the moment. So I mean, I'm still at like 54, 54.50 per token, which is just too much, right? Like, I mean, that gets us. So, oh, I'm going to close out of this altogether. There we go. Sorry, I keep moving that. So let's see if we did. Let's look at the order book. 54.50 times 2978, and if you remember, that's just the total tokens equals, okay, 162,000 is basically what that's implying we're paying. Now, of course, whenever you buy a property, you pay closing costs, and so you end up paying a little bit more. So if the property really was worth 150 today, I think that'd probably be worth it. But let me show you. So I pulled up the appraisal. This is from, um, I'll look at the date in a minute, but it showed, okay, appraised value really only at 140,000. Let's see. Yeah, and this is back in May. Maybe it's gone up a little bit since then, maybe not. But you know, we're checking out all the usual places. Looked on Realtor.com. They have anywhere from 122 to 160. You know, so that's not bad. Their middle one is 155. So you know, maybe we're okay price wise. I looked up this estimate 146.9. Okay, well that's a little bit below the 150. Not terrible. You know, it's got a good yield. That yield is really just dependent on, um, our co-owner here who's doing a good job with that property, right? It's interesting that you can see their LinkedIn. I was interested in looking at that, and you know, it's not always really very, very telling as far as what they're doing. But I mean, it's just interesting to think about, right? Like getting a investment, but if you decided, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore, it's not as if you can just hire a manager that will do a good job of renting it by the room like that. It's tough to find that type of manager in most markets, at least most that I've worked in. There's this company PadSplit that does it, but they don't have any in that market at the moment, which makes me think that they are not doing it. And so that kind of left me just not sure I want to buy any of these yet. I think I like the model. I'm a big fan of the rent by the room model. I like the market. I just think I want a little bit of, and maybe I'm getting spoiled because I'm getting a discount on so many of these. One of the things that I have been doing, is buying a couple tokens of something, and then it makes it easier when I'm looking at it every month. And maybe I'll just do that. I'll just buy 2 tokens of this. Um, Maybe I'll buy five. I'll buy 5 tokens of this. Uh, and you know, when you do that, then I can slowly, yeah, I'm going to use a market order. I'll slowly build up a position. Let's see. And I'll just watch it, right? Like I'll leave this, and I'll show you where I'm leaving that in a minute. As soon as this trade goes through, um, okay, yeah, and it's doing the same thing, right? Where it's not showing all the fees here, but it's definitely including them here. So I'm gonna have to give them. They're constantly updating the site and changing stuff, and so when you let them know stuff like this happens, they're actually pretty responsive and tend to be able to fix it relatively quickly. Um, so put that buy order in, and then what that'll do, obviously I'll have that investment and I'll start making some yield, and maybe I overpaid by a few bucks per token relative to the price in the real world today. I'm comfortable with that risk, but what I'm going to do is, I'll have it in my portfolio now. And so when I look at, well, let me just show you where I'm going to look, right? So, and I'm sure if you're in Lofty already, you probably look at your account tab pretty regularly, but you can just every day I just scroll through this and, look at what's my cost basis, what's the market price. And if I see ones where, and it's not perfect because some of these they don't have a market price, or they're pulled off because they're trying to sell them, so the market price doesn't show up. But when my cost basis is lower than the market price on this one, because I bought at a dip, right? And so that's what I'm kind of looking for. Same thing here, right? This was one I didn't actually have any. I just kept looking back at it and I got it at a discount. Um, and then that's what the trade that I have that hasn't settled on this one yet is the same way. It's going to be, is this the one? Yeah, I think I bought, I don't know, like 24 shares or something at $43 or $44, which is, a big discount even to what the price has gone back up to. Let's see if that went through. Oh, that still hasn't gone through. Oh, there we go. Market order complete. And so that's it. So now, when I refresh, I think I'll have it in this here. Let's see. That's at least showing it. Just scroll down. Yeah, and then I'll click and sign the owner. But you see, okay, so this is my cost basis. I've bugged them a whole bunch of times about including our fees in this, and it seems like they're going to start doing that eventually. They just haven't done it yet, and I don't know why. I think that the way that they track the fees must not be easy to deal with to get it in there, but they definitely track them. I mean, because they're giving tax forms at the end of the year, whatnot. But so anyway, every day when this comes out, I'll take a look, and if we've got a dip in prices like we did, like they had. Let's look at the 90-day chart, like they had here, right, and so earlier in July. I'll just pick up more tokens then, and that's the way. That's one of the things that I think is just a fantastic opportunity on Lofty that you just don't have when buying properties in real life. Is that you can just average down your basis by whenever there's a dip, buying more. One of the things that you do always want to check when you're doing that is that there's not something wrong with the property. There's not a reason that it's going down in value, or especially with these short-term rentals. I think a lot of times the reason is they had a bad month, and then that leads some of the other investors to sell tokens. I think it's a terrible idea to do that, but I think it's pretty common. In any case, I think this is. I'm not as excited about this one, to be honest, as I am about the that Houston one that I picked up on Mogul. As I mentioned, I do have a video about that. Uh, just like always, though, just because I buy some of this or I buy that one doesn't mean it's the right investment for you. So please, do your own due diligence. Think about how this fits into your own portfolio. Think about your own level of risk tolerance. If you need to consult, your financial advisor, do that, right? Like, I just want to make it really clear because I think I go through and I buy, tokens here and there. I'm really just trying to share what my real estate experience, what I'm looking at, what I'm thinking about, but not necessarily. It doesn't mean that just because I buy it that it's the right move for you. So please keep that in mind. I think that's all for today. So until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.